you would have to demonstrate the circularity.
I could also point out, just as a sideline, and we won't go here,
Yes.
it's interesting that you are happy to suddenly have a vaguely Trinitarian nature to God when I know with a Christian, you can understand the idea of therefore breaking one thing down into three, yes?
Well, of course.
Good. It would be nice to, in the endless debates with the Christians, if occasionally they didn't keep hammering the Trinity.
Tony, listen to me. Tony, there's a world of difference between talking about three persons and three types of attributes. So you're clever enough to understand that.
Yeah.
Let me give you.
I just don't believe this. I don't believe that you guys can't buy the idea of, just for a second, that hydrogen 2 plus oxygen, as a molecule, we'll all agree it's one thing, but it can manifest as a gas, it can manifest as ice, and it can manifest as a vapor. Now, I'm not expecting you to. Are you
a Christian?
No. Of sorts.
Okay. Well, let me. What you've.
You a Christian wouldn't
Tony,
think so. I like religion.
Listen to Tony. Listen to me.
Yes.
Listen to me.
Yes, Mohammed. Yes.
What you've described is a modal understanding of God.
Correct.
Now, in modern day Christian understanding, when you talk about Protestantism, Catholicism, this is seen as heretical because you have.
I'm not subscribed to
no problem. Let's just put that out there. First of all, why this is problematic, and even is seen as problematic by the majority of philosophers of religion, William Haskell, even I believe William Lane Craig, others see this as a problematic kind of understanding and have some other analogies to present, is because it suggests that God can be X form or Y form or Z form. What can't happen is that water is water and ice and gas at the same time. All three don't.
We agree, but we would also agree that simultaneously its essential nature.
Are you with me, Tony?
You know what? I've digressed the conversation.
I know you have, but no. Let's just get this out of the way. You can't.
This can take time.
I know. But what I'm saying is, modalism is the idea that God changes. The Father changes to the Son, Son changes to the Holy Spirit. That you have different modes of God. But why this is heretical on mainstream's understanding of Christianity is because the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is something which should always exist eternally, co-equally, and so on. But with the modal understanding, there's transformation going on. If you're talking about water to ice and ice to gas, then when water is ice, it's not gas, and when it's gas, it's not ice. And so there's.
It's always H2O.
But what we're saying is, it's always
H2O.
No, but that's irrelevant because we're saying that the form has changed. If you apply this to God, Father, Son, and Holy.
An aspect of the form has changed, but ontologically, the essence of the thing is consistent. I don't have to defend the people who are traditionalists because I'm not.
No, but remember, on the traditional Trinitarian understanding, there is no idea of the Father being either the Father or the Son or the Holy Spirit at any given time. It's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit at all times, co-equally and co-extant.
I don't subscribe to a literal Christian or Muslim interpretation.
Going back to
let's go back.
So look, when we talk about self-consistency, we're talking about we have to differentiate between we have to differentiate between parts and attributes. Now H2O is 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Now what I say is that anything that is made out of pieces is dependent. H2O is made out of pieces, therefore H2O is dependent. Now that doesn't apply to God because there's a world of difference between attributes and parts.
I literally only meant this. I meant as thank you.
Don't.
As an analogy for how something can be intrinsically one thing but have 3 facets.
Yeah.
I think we've explained this. You can wrap your head around.
Right. So as we said,
because when Muslims seem to be mystified by the idea of the Trinity, I would think that at least they can embrace.
It's not mystified. I think let's be honest. Christians have been, if you want to call it that, mystified and confused about the idea of the Trinity, which is why you've had different schools of thought, modalism being one of them, tritheism being on the opposite end of the spectrum. So if it was a straightforward idea, which is unmystified or otherwise unencoded, or it's not, there's no element of confusion in it, then there wouldn't have been such an array of understanding.
I think it's a tenable idea to explore. I'm not saying it's proven, then you may well be
fine.
right.
But we've explained why this idea is problematic
it's definitely problematic.
Great, good, beautiful.
That doesn't kill it.
I believe it does kill it, but let's move on to the next bit. The idea is that you said something important. I said there's a tripartite classification or categorization or compartmentalization of the attributes of God: intrinsic, will, and verbal attributes. These are the 3.
I'll buy that provisionally for now.
What I'm saying is that there is a difference, and we have to make this difference, between parts and attributes, because if I were to tell you, right, that you have an electric razor, and then you have a cutthroat razor, right, the electric razor has many different parts.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, the cutthroat razor has no parts, but has more attributes, has more functional attributes, because you can cut an orange with it and you can cut a throat with it. So you can do more with a cutthroat razor than you can with an electric razor, despite the fact that the electric razor has more parts. So what I'm saying is that we must be able to differentiate between centers of consciousness, A, and or parts on the one hand, or attributes on the other. With the Trinity example, you have 3 centers of consciousness. We go to the electric razor example. We're not going to the cutthroat razor example. With the Islamic understanding is, we're going to the cutthroat razor example, we're saying God is not composed of pieces, and therefore we can, just because God is simple doesn't mean it doesn't have many attributes. Just like a cutthroat razor can do many things functionally.
Okay. For the record.
So yeah, of course.
Okay. For the record, I think monism, monistic religion, is the ideal way to go. You guys are very big on it. Congratulations. Okay. So I think monism. I'm on board with monism. I suspect that the Christians think that they can incorporate the concept of a Trinity, maybe in a metaphorical sense, within a monistic framework, and that may be tenable, and that your hostility to it as a metaphor is maybe undue. But I think both religions, all the Abrahamic religions, are essentially monistic, and that's a good thing, yeah? It's just a shame that so much time gets spent here constantly banging on about 2 particular things.
We can talk about
Christians come at you guys about certain.
I understand.
Did you get your answer for the justice? Because
I'd like to get.
Going back. No, but these are important preambles. Monism is something else. We can talk about this and to what extent it can be interpreted within the Islamic framework, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you talked about today. Now the question is, how can we establish, because to say something is just or unjust requires a theory of justice.
Yeah. Mine is that it's equivalent, it's balanced, yeah? An eye for if you take an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and I don't believe in that. But the concept of live by the sword, die by the sword, in Christianity there are whole references, in Buddhism there are references to there being some equivalence of cause and effect, yeah?
Yes.
I think that's common to most religions, and I expect that to be reflected in justice.
Well, here's the problem. And this is the argument I make, it's called the argument from divine value, okay? I'm making this, I'll put this argument to you. I've said this before on Speaker's Corner, but I'm going to say it again. You see this tree behind you right there, yeah?
one more time.
I'm going to tell you one more time. This tree behind you. Now, if I get this tree and I cut it up into little pieces, all right, it's a living tree, accepted. Now, you might think that's a reprehensible action. I don't know. Maybe you think it's okay, it's fine, depending on what the motivation is. But now if I get a small child from St. Mary's Hospital that's just been born,
I feel differently.
And I cut that baby into little pieces, is it equivalent according to you, or is it different?
No, because you're contravening the will of the child, whereas the tree hasn't got a will.
Right, great. So what you've basically made is an attributional difference. That the child has some attribute that the tree doesn't have, which makes me transgressing against the rights of the child more reprehensible than me transgressing or cutting.
The tree has any rights, so it's not a problem.
No problem. It's living, so I mean there are some similarities.
It doesn't cross the line for me. It doesn't feel anything, so I don't.
No problem.
But trees will communicate with each other. But that's
no, if the tree feels something, it's got rights.
Fine.
If it doesn't.
We can make the argument. But what I'm saying is the difference between the tree and the baby is an attributional difference. Now, what we are saying is when the object of transgression becomes infinite in its attributional quantity.
Sorry, just got to absorb that. That's a biggie. And for your viewers as well. That's
welcome to my life.
Okay, fine. When the what?
Okay.
When the attribute.
You have subject and object.
Correct. Good.
Subject is me.
Yeah.
Now, object is I'm holding my mobile phone.
Excellent.
So I'm doing something to the object.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm doing something to the tree is the object.
Correct.
If I'm doing something to the baby is the object.
And simultaneously a subject, which is why it has rights.
No, I am the subject and the baby is the object.
No, in that situation, you're both, ontologically, you are both subjects. And
if I'm doing something, if it's passive and I'm active.
Yeah, and the reason that what you're doing is offensive is precisely because you're affecting another subject.
Oh yeah, I get that. No, I meant in the grammatical term. There's subject and object in sentences, yeah?
The dual.
Yeah, I meant ontologically.
So the one who's...
I'm into the Cartesian divide of
No,
subject and object.
No, I didn't mean it like that. So I'm talking grammatically.
Sorry, you meant grammar.
Yeah. Subject, object, okay? I cut the tree. I am the subject, that is the object.
Apologies. Yes, you're right. It's grammatical. Sorry.
Right.
I thought you were being Cartesian.
No. Well, that's what I mean by object. It's good that you asked me. Now, if I am Now, we said the difference between the tree and the baby is attributional. That the baby has attribute, which is in this case will, and the tree doesn't have. Now I say, if that's the case, then the more of such attribute the object has, the more of a crime transgressing against the object is. And in this case, we say that God has an infinite level of, for example, power attribute, knowledge attribute, and so on. He's worthy of worship from our paradigm. And so transgressing against the ultimate in attributional quantity means that you should. It means that to you belongs the highest level of punishment. Because if I cut the tree into two pieces, I shouldn't be punished. I think you'd agree. In the same way, if I cut the baby into two pieces, because the object has more attribute. But with God, the attribute is so intense and is infinite in attributes, which means if I transgress against that object, which means I should be given the highest punishment, even if it's for a little bit of time.
Crime is done against infinite, the punishment is infinite.
Can I just take this on board now?
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
so the first conversation I had with Ali, I was surprised because I thought he balanced the two infinites. Yeah?
Right.
And I had to concede that, and I would have moved on to a discussion on determinism.
Okay.
Yeah? Because I think the negative overflow to that. You've now hit me with a new thing, which I hadn't heard before, and I'm taking on board, right? And it seems to me, no offence, yeah, your argument is cogent.
Yes.
But it might also involve a little bit of circular sleight of hand, because what seems to be being said maybe is that effectively anything you do which contravenes God's law is an effect against an infinite being with infinite faculties, and therefore infinite punishment is appropriate. Now, I can see that as a cogent line of argument.
Right.
I can also see maybe it's not such a cogent line of argument in terms of you've now got the circular framework in which you can argue that anything you do against God is an infinite transgression, whereas at least in a secular sense, and I know we would secularly agree that our view of fair play would be that the crime is against the individual baby, and not the baby isn't an individual.
Let me put it in a syllogism. Let me put it in a syllogism.
I confirm you understand my point.
Let me put it in a syllogism for you and tell me where it's circular, all right?
Yeah.
The higher the attributional value an object has, the more the punishment should be for the subject.
You could argue that, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree.
Great.
I need to think about it.
Premise 2, God's attributional value is infinite. Therefore, oh no. That's not right. That's not right. It should be the level of punishment of the object is concurrent. The subject is concurrent with the level of the attributional value of the object. The attributional value of the subject, of the object, of God is infinite, therefore the punishment should be infinite.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but what you're doing with that, and it may be legitimate or it may not, you're deflecting the focus of the sin. In the original example, sorry Ali, if I don't mind. In the original example, I am, say, I don't want to stab Ali, that's such a bad analogy. Right, whatever, okay?
By the way, you know he's not negating what I said. He's saying this is another angle to look at it.
I'm interested in how it ties up. But if I commit a crime against Ali, then he is the object who doesn't have infinite qualities, and therefore that my punishment shouldn't be infinite. Yeah?
Great, yeah, it's true.
But you're arguing that the fact that I've sinned against Ali contravenes God's law, and because God is infinite, therefore anything I do, even if it's a finite transgression, automatically
what you've
should have infinite repercussions.
No. What you've done there is different.
Well, then I misquoted.
No, because the subject here is not God directly.
Yeah, I'm the subject.
Sorry, the object is not God. Because when we say the object, what necessitates an eternity of punishment in the hellfire is not you going against a being with finite quantity. With finite qualities like Ali.
Yeah,
if you go against them, you wouldn't go to hell forever. That doesn't work like that.
Yeah, right.
You only go to hell forever when you commit shirk, which is associating partners with God, or you commit kufr, which is denying God in the first place is worthy of worship, for example, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying is, in those two examples, the direct object of transgression is God, but not just in the sense that you're going against His law. He is actually the object of inappropriate. So let me tell you how, right?
So hang on, to be clear.
Yeah.
So you're saying, it's prima facie, it seemed to me you were saying that because you contravene His law.
No.
And you're not just saying that, but you are saying that.
No, not the law. No.
So it's not because I contradicted His law.
Nothing to do with the law here. The law wasn't actually made. Even the syllogism I said, I never said the word law. When I say going against, right? So inappropriacy, because in the Arabic, dhulm, which means oppression, is basically inappropriacy. Putting something in other than its inappropriate place. That's literally what dhulm or oppression means. So our theory of justice is inappropriacy. The more inappropriate you are, the more oppressive you are. So how are you inappropriate with God? You're inappropriate where you redirect the worship you owe God to other than God. And that is what I mean by when you're transgressing against the object. You're transgressing against the object in so much as, so this God with infinite, whatever it may be, knowledge, power, and so on, you are redirecting the veneration and worship you should have with that God to something with limited of those variables, X, Y, Z variables, and that inappropriacy deserves an infinite punishment because there's an infinite gap there, if you like.
Okay, now it sounds to me like you're describing the sin of idolatry and it would work for
Yes,
that.
yes, only that. Only that.
Okay, but the sin of me...
Shirk and kufr.
The sin of me hurting the baby
yes,
is
it's not
a sin of idolatry.
Exactly.
It's a sin against
So we wouldn't say that baby, hurting the baby, killing the baby, anything that does not by itself mean that you'll spend the hellfire all time in the hellfire forever.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, it's just shit. So you don't believe...
It's just polytheism, and it's just kufr, or disbelief, that guarantees you the eternity. Nothing else guarantees you the eternity.
So it's only idolatry and offence against God on a more personal level, which gives you infinite punishment.
Or disbelief in him as worthy of worship and redirecting that worship someone else.
Sorry. Disbelief in him. Now, I would take, if I disbelieve in your particular representation of God, which may be accurate or may not, I consider that what I've done there is make a finite choice with finite faculties, and therefore it's a finite transgression.
No, but if you are redirecting your veneration and worship, which is the appropriate action you should have with the all-knowing necessary being, the independent one, if you redirect that action to something which is dependent and finite and contingent and so on, then what you're doing is you are fulfilling the syllogism, if you like. It's only in that action where the ultimate punishment will be justified.
Okay, so as long as I'm in some way sort of offending God in person, infinite punishment...
You said that beautiful.
Does that work?
Yeah, excellent.
Okay.
So long as what you're doing is being inappropriate with the worship of God, qua God, then that is where the eternal punishment comes. That's why we actually have hadith, which is...
so we have an agreement. I can understand.
Yes.
I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can understand it cogently.
So what we say...
If I offend God personally, then infinite punishment is appropriate because God is an infinite being.
Yes.
Yes?
Beautiful.
Excellent.
If you die...
No, but do you know what I say? Come one more on this point. That's why there is actually a saying of the Prophet that anyone with even an atom's weight of iman, which basically means faith in their heart, will not spend their entire time in the hellfire, even an atom's weight.
Okay, great.
Right.
Now,
So
I didn't know this. I assumed that you believed in infinite punishment in hell.
yeah, we do. We do.
You do.
But for what you've said.
Only for what I just said.
Yeah, but here's what we would caveat with this. The only way to appropriately worship God is through his instruction. And the only way to do so through his instruction is through the prophets.
Yeah, you see, this is where I feel the small print might be sneaking back in. And
there's no small print there.
It might just be going,
there's no small...
but given that anything you do which is against the teachings of, say, the Quran, would be offensive to God, ergo, if you do anything against teachings of the Quran, it's appropriate to go there.
But if you believe in those teachings...
Infinitely.
No, but if you...
Yes?
No,
Are you saying that?
No.
Good. How not?
Because if you believe in those teachings and you believe in the word that God is worthy of worship, these are the predicate beliefs. If you have those beliefs even at an atom's weight, then you would be disqualified from an eternal punishment.
Good.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yes.
So
Okay, so do you know what I've learned from doing this circle about hell? Because I asked Bob, you might like this, I asked Bob the Builder. Turns out Bob doesn't believe in infinite in hell either. Yeah? And I didn't know this. During the discussion I discovered he believed that either you go to heaven or you kind of fade into nothingness and cease to exist. And he says it's not a standard Christian view, but it's one he subscribed to. He showed me the Bible. Now that was nice to discover. It's also nice to discover that you don't necessarily believe in infinite punishment.
Definitely in all cases.
Okay, but to a lot of people who are laymen coming into this, we think you believe that, and it sounds draconian. But neither you nor Bob actually believe anything quite that hard line.
One more thing, to be fair, and this might sound controversial, but Ibn Taymiyyah, who he didn't believe, like Ibn Taymiyyah is one of the heavyweight scholars. He has two views, all right? So one, he says that eternal punishment in the hellfire is sanctionable, and the other one is not.
Okay.
And the truth of the matter is, his student, which is Ibn al-Qayyim, in his book Shifā' al-Alil, he basically takes the view that hellfire runs out even for disbelievers.
Good.
So I don't know if it's good or not. I disagree with it.
It feels more just and merciful, and therefore it feels more...
It might be good or bad, but I'm just telling you that this is a view, even though it's aberrational. It is an aberrational view.
We don't believe that.
I personally don't subscribe. Like I said to you, what was Tufi, there might be views that...
You do believe it's
for those who die
only if it's against
God.
Yes.
No, for those who die in idolatry, it's forever.
Okay.
Yes.
That still to me feels harsh. Maybe I'm a bit of a.
But one thing, can I add
Maybe.
one thing, Tony?
Yeah.
You know when you said, for example, that's not just. In order for you to truly comprehend and understand the violation, you need to.
Yes,
you
that's a
can't
good point.
comprehend because what's happening here is you're assuming, and it's right, you're a human being.
Yeah.
You're saying, well, that's not just. One thing Allah says in the Quran is that the people in the hellfire are never going to say, you wronged us. This is very interesting because they're in hellfire and the God's telling us they're burning.
And they still don't learn their lesson even in hell.
Yes. Well, yeah. And what the point is here, none of them say the following.
No, they're in the hellfire, they know what's going on.
Yeah,
right?
no, they're
They
not
don't
obviously.
recant.
No, they recant. They do recant. They
no,
recant.
do.
Too late.
It's
Yeah, it's too late. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
rough. That is rough. That is
No,
rough.
one second.
If you sincerely recant.
No, but
but what does Allah
recanting
say?
in what domain?
No, but it goes.
In what dimension?
But Tony,
it's too late.
Tony, it goes back to what I said to you. Because Allah said, if they were to send back, because what they say to Allah, they say, give us a chance. It's very interesting. They don't say, oh God, why are you making us suffer in hellfire forever just because we just committed adultery? They don't say that. They say, give us a chance. And the point here is the fact that they say give us a chance shows something very interesting. It shows that God's justice is done in such a perfect way. They are not complaining of being in the fire. They accept and know they deserve being in the fire forever. Yeah. They're asking for a chance, which means because we don't comprehend what shirk is, like what associating partners to God is, we fall in a contradictory, like within our thought process of, well, hold on a second, we can't fathom it. It's such a great sin. We believe there is no sin on this earth that can come close to shirk. So just so you understand,
I think you're arguing to a level of mysticism, maybe that. I think,
No. Look. What I'll say to you, Tony, is this. So what we did here,
I'm not knocking it.
But
I
understand.
think
But if we review, let's review something, okay? We've spoken for about 20 to 30 minutes about.
Yeah, let's wrap up.
We're going to do determinism. Can we do determinism another time?
Yeah, of course. But what I'm saying is that we've spoken for 20 to 30 minutes about hellfire, and I've given you the argument from divine value,
which I appreciate.
Yeah, and I've shown you how, and you said it's cogent, and
it's cogent. I'm not saying I'm buying it, but I'm buying
it's cogent.
I'm buying that it's cogent.
It's right, beautiful. Now, here's what I want to say to you: is that's perfect. That's all you can do right now, because I know it might feel emotionally off-putting.
And intellectually a bit, but carry
on. No, but intellectually we've already explained it's cogent. That's the intellectual value judgment. Right.
There are other cogent intellectual ways of looking at it.
What we're saying, cogent, 100%, no doubt. I'm not saying it's the only conceivable possibility, definitely. But what I am saying is, so long as it's cogent, now what we really need to discover is whether the authority of the Quran and Sunnah is actually justified or not. If it is, then this is something which is rational and reasonable. If it's not, according to you, then you don't need to accept it in the first place.
I don't know.
But that's what we really need to investigate, because it's like we're talking about.
I think you may be handicapping yourself here by placing. You're not going to like this.
Yeah.
The emphasis that I think you have on the literal truth of every syllable of the Quran, I think might be a bit of a dead weight.
I don't have that hermeneutical approach.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't have.
I didn't know that. I'm learning shit all the time.
Yeah, no, we don't have that. I don't think anyone. Only person that really believed that there's no metaphors in the Quran was Ibn Taymiyyah.
Good. So then one of the questions is, what's the latitude on the metaphors? Yeah. And this
Yeah,
is what the
yeah,
hadith
yeah.
is about, is how you
Yeah,
interpret this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, these are the constructive discussions, I think, to have more of in Speaker's Corner.
For sure.
Maybe less of just the bear baiting between extremes of positions.
For sure. No, the determinism question is an important one as well. But
we can come to.
But I think the best thing we can do first, I think, especially if is to establish the existence of God and what kind of God we're talking about from first principles. Because when we get that, that is really that's the root of the tree, and everything else comes as.
Well, you're going to go for the cosmological argument.
No, I don't. No. I advocate a different kind of argument, not the Kalam cosmological argument of William Lane Craig.
I've watched an 8-minute video of you going.
That was about 6 years ago, maybe 7.
I don't want to hold you to it because you're allowed to change it, but I watched.
No. It's not like I don't have a problem. It's not like I disagree with the findings of the cosmological argument, but it's not the argument I would present.
Okay.
The argument I would present is a very simple one. If you want to do it quickly, right?
Look, dude, I'm loving this conversation. I like having constructive ones, and
Yeah.
I didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah.
We've covered a bit of it. I'd love to do with you.
We'll do it again.
determinism and the cosmological argument, or your version
the
of it
contingency
another
argument.
time. Would that be good?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
Fantastic, my
Hope you
friend.
have a nice chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
very
man.
Thank you. Listen, can I big up Dawood, please?
Oh,
on
sure.
camera, because
Here.
Dawood is.
How can you big him up when he's already bigged up?
Well, I'm going to bring it up even more. I've just seen Gow very consistently doing
Yes, yes.
terrific broadcasts on YouTube. The speech
Yes.
he made last week, everybody should watch, about how this is a community, and it was very heartfelt and more eloquent than I thought. So watch this guy when he's online. Look out for him. He's great, and he's on Ali Dawah's team.
Oh, yeah, well, we'll
And he's
want
on
to.
both of your
Yeah,
teams. But he's a really good guy. So
yeah. You don't have to tell me, but yeah, thank you for saying it.
Great. And thank you very much.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. Well, we're just gonna pray now. Should we pray? Yeah. I'm Salam, brother. How you doing? You okay? Good to see you, my friend. Yeah.
I'm very happy to see you. I was always watching your videos.
Mashallah.
With David
Assalamu
Wood
alaikum.
and
You're right.
Can I ask you, what was the,
Good, mashallah.
Ibn Taymiyyah's student, he had that view that, I've also read it, that one day hellfire will be extinguished. What did he base that view? I think
He based it on the aqwal of Salaf,
based
innit?
on, to kind of say like...
He based it on the aqwal of the Salaf, but then many scholars then tadaif of the hadith. Like Albani even attacked the hadith of, but it's in the book, man. It's not. You can't argue Ibn Qayyim didn't believe in that. It was in his book.
My one has got a tape on it. It's not a tape. This one. Yeah.